Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. Welcome to the Sajdah channel. In preparation for 2025, our theme is that we're scrubbing our minds and our hearts. We're going to talk today about falling. You'll see what I mean. Be a friend, tell a friend, and I'll be right back.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee. And he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in my judgment is the master historian, taught us that of all our studies, history is the most attractive, and it is best qualified to reward the researcher. History is most attractive. Why should history be most attractive? Because history is the recorded time of the human family in its struggle to overcome obstacles. There is no life that is without struggle. The Holy Quran teaches us that man, meaning man and woman, is made to face difficulties. And after difficulty comes ease. But it is history that guides us through difficulty. For if you know how people who had difficulty yesterday got through, and if your difficulty is somewhat similar, then today we also can get through if we follow the guidance of history. This is why Carter G. Woodson and many of our black giants fought for black people to know our history. Because in not knowing our history, we don't have a guide. And without a guide, we are lost. No wonder the Bible...
Assalamu alaikum, family. Welcome to the Sajdah channel. I hope everybody's doing well. Let me tell y'all, yesterday I told myself I'm not doing nothing, not doing anything. I'm going to make myself just shut it down. And so I'm not big on napping. So I was napping like on and off and like, okay, this feels good. I woke up this morning so sleepy. I was like, what? And shouldn't I be really energized this morning? I was so sleepy. You would have thought that I hadn't slept in months. I don't know if it was just the nervous system finally shutting down or what. But anyway, so forgive me for being sleepy and looking all sleepy this morning. I'm telling you, I barely could get up. And I got a lot of stuff to do today. Anyway, I wanted to talk to us. I'm pulling up my notes here. I wanted to continue our conversation on our preparation for the new calendar year. And you all know, if you've been, in my circle and following the work that I've been doing over the years, you know that this time of the year we've done manifestation experiences, we've done goal setting events and experiences, we've done mindset shift events and all kind of stuff like that. And this year, I haven't decided if I want to do an experience or not, but what I really want us to focus on is scrubbing our minds and our hearts in preparation for the new calendar year. Now, I know some people, I remember one person came and was talking about the origin of the Gregorian calendar. We know all of that. Use this as an opportunity when everybody else is resetting, you prepare and reset as well. It's okay. You can be clear on the origin of the Gregorian calendar and be clear on the artificial nature of the new year, but understand that living in this world, it still affects you. So it's okay. You can know all of that. We know all of that. Got it. No problem. But we're gonna focus on being new this new calendar year. That's why I'm not even calling it a new year. This new calendar year, we're gonna focus on being new, scrubbing, doing something different. Okay. And two things we talked yesterday, last couple of days about a few things. Two more things I want to chat about today. I called this show Falling for a reason, and I'll explain that. But I want you to first begin by divorcing the informants in your life. What do I mean by that? Many of us are starting these businesses. We got plans. We're expanding our businesses. We got, some of us are independent contractors and we got goals. Some of us got projects we're working on. And you got people that come in and out of your life just so that they can get information. That's all they want. They just want to get information about your life. And they're getting the information because what they're really doing is they're comparing. And ultimately, when you give them that information about your business, you give them access to your business. Spiritual access, if they're a person who can cast out negative information and negative energy towards what you're doing, whether they gossiping about you, talking about you, or just talking, period. That's the first part of it. Second part is you give them access spiritually, but you give them access for their opinion. And that's really something we got to make sure that we're mindful of. So divorce those informants. Some people are intentional informants and they're just negative and they just talk. Other people are unintentional informants. They may have that one best friend that they tell everything to. And when you guys talk, they go tell the best friend. That best friend could be a husband or a wife. And that husband or a wife goes and spreads your business that your friend got and gave to their spouse or a family member. And the way you know this about people is have you ever spent time with somebody and maybe over the course of the maybe couple of hours that you spent with them, they maybe got 4 or 5 phone calls. Have you ever paid attention that though all 4 to 5 of those phone calls all know exactly what that person is doing at this moment, where they're going, who they're with? You don't even have to know them, and they'll say, "Yeah, I'm right here. I'm with Sajdah now." Yep. You're like, what? And then you see the next person they talk to. Oh yeah, we on our way to blah blah blah, and that becomes a pattern. Then you know that person is an informant. They may mean well, but they talk too much, and so they're going to give access to your business to somebody else because you've given them access to you. So you need to divorce those informants this year. What does that mean? Dial back the amount of information that you give them. If they're a negative informant, get rid of them, period. But if it's just because they just talk too much, then dial it back. Dial back the information that you give them. They say, how you doing? Oh, I can't complain. You understand? Somebody, Sister Aurelia put in the chat, monitoring spirits. Divorce those people. Now, let's talk about falling. You know, we have sayings in religion, falling from grace, falling out of the nation, backsliding. In business, all of a sudden you become disengaged. That's another way of saying falling. But you may end up with a whole bunch of employees that are disengaged. And we talked about that and how much that's costing and impacting your bottom line. But disengaged employee, people who are no longer interested, they fall out of love with it. They're just over it. And a spiritual fall. That's what I'm going to go over first. A spiritual fall. I got some notes. I'm not looking down like a crazy person. I got some notes in my phone. When a person falls spiritually, let me first define what that means. A spiritual fall refers to a period in one's spiritual journey where they experience a decline in their connection to their higher power or spiritual practice, often characterized by a sense of disconnection, loss of motivation, or a lapse of moral behavior, similar to how leaves fall from a tree. But let's talk about the characteristics again. Falling, when we're falling, and what's so powerful about falling is that oftentimes you don't know that you're falling. I'm going to talk about that experience. Falling, where you have a sense of disconnection, loss of motivation, or a lapse in moral behavior. You just decide, you know what? I'm not going to uphold these morals anymore. I'm just going to deviate. I don't care. I'm just going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do everything else, but I'm just going to deviate. I don't care. That's a lapse in moral behavior. Whether you have an employee who now decides that after being loyal for all these years that they're going to start stealing, start sending your product out the back door, falling. Or if you're a spiritual person and instead of saying, you know what, no sex before marriage, or no sex with somebody who's not my mate, then you just decide, whatever, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do what I got to do. And you keep, that's falling. But what I want to talk about as we're scrubbing our minds and our hearts, getting prepared for 2025, is what is happening right before you fall and as you're falling. Usually, like we talked about yesterday, there's some form of disappointment. And so there's the whole spiritual piece around disappointment and the conversations you need to learn to have in your head to prevent yourself from being disappointed. Some people go into a spiritual fall because they're just followers. They may be tight with the CEO or tight with a close person, or they witness a key figure in the organization do something immoral. And it triggers them to the point where they just go, well, whatever, F it, I'm going to do it too. Or I'm going to do what I do. Because they can't say nothing to me. And then when you get fired by that person that you know got dirt on them, or they put you out, now you upset. Some of us fall because we're weak. Some of us fall because of disappointment. There's a number of different reasons. See, I want you to think about falling physically for a minute. And falling is so spiritual because of the range of emotions and even dimensions, spiritual dimensions, energetic dimensions that you travel through when you fall down physically. See, when you find yourself running into something that was in your way or that you didn't see or that caused you to fall, when it first hits you, you don't really, you may have a flash before your eyes that say, had I not done so-and-so, I wouldn't be falling. You might. But what oftentimes happens is when you trip and fall, there's a point. I was thinking about this and wrote this down. When you fall, you never really know how far it is. You're falling, and there's that point where you may be trying to stop yourself from falling. And then when the fall becomes inevitable, you stop fighting and you go into this dimension that's almost like you're flying. Like time slows down. And now you're just waiting, boom, to hit the ground. And then when you hit the ground, you got to assess the damage. You might pop back up and keep going. Or you might feel like, I got to take it easy. Or you might realize 2 weeks later that you got a concussion. Now you got post-concussion syndrome, headaches and dizziness and all of that. Same thing happens to us spiritually. When you're falling, when you're about to seduce yourself into that immoral act, you know that's what you're doing. You're strategizing, you're keenly aware, but then it becomes a point when your vibration changes so that it matches that immoral act that you're doing. All of a sudden, it's almost like you're just flying through it. It becomes normal. It seems like this is what you do. It's okay to do. That's why it's easy for people to get caught, because they normalize the immoral behavior, because in that space where they're flying, just like when you physically fall, they don't really know that it's not real and they can't do anything about what you see. They may even go so far as to tell somebody, to talk about it, to let somebody else in on it. And then that person reports them to management or whatever, in whatever condition that you're in. Usually one or two of the people will spill the beans, especially if you're in a situation where there's collusion. So then when you fall spiritually, you're in that flying space where you're just going to do it. It don't matter. No matter what, you're using deceptive intelligence to keep yourself oblivious. And then finally, you hit rock bottom. And unlike what happens physically, where we are checking to see, what are my legs? Did I hurt my knee? Did I break my hip? Is my shoulder okay? Did I hit my head? And you're going through the whole list and you're getting up and you're seeing how you feel. Oftentimes we don't do that spiritually. We fall, we hit the ground, we hit rock bottom, and everybody else around us just expects us to deal with the fact that we fell. And there's oftentimes no help offered. See, a spiritual fall is a very painful fall because it's sometimes silent. Because even once you get found out, once you get fired, once you get relieved, whatever happens, once you're outed, just like when you fell physically, you had to assess yourself. You got to use your senses to assess, where am I? What caused this? Is it a trauma that I'm carrying? Is it disappointment? Am I a polytheist? Did I see somebody else doing something that I admired and I just said, you know what? All bets are off. I ain't going to follow this moral code no more. They doing it. I'm going to do what they do. Or are you such a sycophant that when you saw the CEO, the CFO, the top person in charge doing something shady, that you just said, oh, that must be how it's done. I'm going to do it too. So there's all kind of reasons. And that's what I want us scrubbing when we go in and get prepared. You could go to the Bible, where the Bible talks about the 7 angels that fell from heaven. You could go to the Holy Quran, where Allah says, then get down from paradise. It is not for you to be arrogant here. So get out. You are truly one of the disgraced. That's not the Maulana Muhammad Ali version, but you all have heard that. You can reference that. After you fall spiritually, and this is for all of us because we've all fallen spiritually. We are all sitting here right now today in a fallen state. And it's just whether or not somebody knows about it or not. Everybody's sitting here in a fallen state because we're not perfect. It's very difficult for us to even strive for perfection, especially in this world. So we're always going to be dealing with falling. And I want us to think about spiritually falling and the process, and make it akin to when we have that physical fall. And physical falls can point to so much. I'm going to tell you one of the most spiritual falls that I've had, that I never forgot. I must have been about 21, 22 years old. I had literally just graduated from college, and I was going out with some people from work. And I already knew not to be kicking it with the folks from work, especially because I'm the only one that looked like me. But they kept on begging, come on, let's go. You got to go with us. It's so-and-so's birthday, blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking to myself, I should not go with them. Everything was pointing towards saying to me as a young 22-year-old, do not go. And I heard it. I remember distinctively hearing the messaging, do not go, that came directly through my spirit. And we went to one of the girls' apartments to meet up. And we were going to break, it was a bunch of us. So we're going to break it down into 2 cars. And it started to sleet a little bit outside, but not anything to be alarmed about, especially if you're a Midwest person. And the whole time we're coming down the stairs, going to the car, something is saying to me, do not go. And when we got outside, what I said that I was going to do, I was just going to walk, because we hadn't decided to drive in my car. I was just going to walk to my car and say, I'm going to drive separately so that, because I got to leave early or something, I had it all set up in my mind. But so what I said was, what I'm going to do is, so that I don't have problem out of these people come Monday morning at work, I'm just going to stick my head in. Now, this is me at 22 now. Later on, when I went back into corporate America, you couldn't get me to do what I didn't want to do. But at that time, I was still trying to figure it out. Anyway, I didn't want to have plans with them on Monday morning. I didn't want to just have to have the conversation. So I was just going to stick my head in and leave. And so as I started walking to my car, something then said, "Don't go," like loud. And I think subconsciously I started having a conversation with that voice saying, I'm just going to stick my head in. That's why I'm going to take my separate car. And when I got to my car, I slipped on what I thought was some ice. And I literally, my legs went out from up under me. I think I elevated and then slammed to the ground. And as I laid there and they all ran over and was like, oh my God. I'm thinking to myself, that was a good way to tell me not to go. And I'll just never forget all the messaging that was up in there. And I remember that space where when I first started to fall, I started trying to break the fall, keep to slip. But then once my legs went up in the air and I'm suspended and I'm about to fall, it's like things slowed down and it's almost like flying. And so I have to surrender. And it ain't till I hit the ground that I assess myself. I got up, I'm 22 years old, athletic. I wasn't hurt, but it was a powerful message. And so that gave me, in my cowardiceness, an excuse to say, I got to go home. I wasn't at that point like I became later. I'm like, no, y'all enjoy yourself. I see y'all Monday. But Allah gave a coward an excuse, because that's what I was in that moment. I didn't have the courage, which I really, since something was telling me not to go, I should have just not went. But he saved me from spiritually falling by making me physically fall, and then raise my awareness to being a follower, being a coward, not having courage. And that was a big thing for me, because in our household growing up, you could not be a follower. My mother would, you could do something really egregious and not get a whooping. But if you was following somebody blindly and not doing what you wanted to do just because somebody else convinced you to do it, you got your what whooped in our house. So that was very raw for me at 22. And so I caught that I was being a coward because I knew I shouldn't go. I shouldn't even have been over here at the people's house getting ready to go to the event or to the bar or wherever we was going. But he stopped me from falling spiritually into whatever was about to happen. I think y'all get the point. Now let's talk about this. What are some of the indicators that you have spiritually fallen? Because a lot of us are sitting here now using deceptive intelligence, making an excuse as to why we're doing what we're doing and for whatever reason. And this is private. This is a private conversation. Scrub your mind, scrub your heart, and let's get those things cleaned up for 2025. But here are some of the signs or indicators that we have spiritually falling. Number one, we feel disconnected from our spiritual practice or community. Now, some of you all as conscious entrepreneurs are going, okay, what does that mean? Well, if you're noticing an employee that has a disconnect, that is disengaged, that is just kind of around the periphery of the organization, barely working, barely servicing the customers, doing just enough not to get fired. That's somebody who is not engaged and has disconnected or never been connected to the overall interests of the company. If you're talking about a spiritual organization or a social organization, that's somebody who has spiritually fallen. If there's increased negativity or cynicism, and you don't have nothing positive to say. You're like, well, whatever, it is what it is. Instead of looking for Allah, instead of fishing and searching for Allah, saying, you know what? I see. It's okay to see what you see. Say, I see this, and this ain't right, but let me find Allah. Let me find him. Okay. That's what you see me doing when I say things like, maybe they're just not at the spiritual level that you're at. Maybe they're at another space in their life. Maybe we're putting too much weight on them. Not making excuses, but I'm looking for Allah. I'm searching. I'm casting my worm out there to see if I can catch on to Allah in this situation, as opposed to being increasingly negative or cynical, or practicing a lot of cynicism. Here's the other indications of a spiritual fall. If you have difficulty finding meaning or purpose, like I just talked about, something happens and you're looking for the meaning or purpose so that you can find a way to avoid disappointment. But if you just can't find no meaning in it and you just going to wallow in your disappointment, you've fallen. You've fallen. Here's another one. Engaging in behaviors that contradict your values. So you just start self-sabotaging. You fall and then you go, you know what? Whatever. I don't care. I'm done. It's over with. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to go back to doing whatever I wanted to do. I'm going to go ahead and engage in this immoral behavior. Things that contradict your own values. Another one is lack of motivation to engage in spiritual activities or even activities of the organization. Lack of interest. You're falling out of love, out of connection. So here's the other thing. If you are in a particular organization or something, for example, and because there may be certain conditions within the organization that are preventing you from participating in certain activities, then you got to find your own activities that support the values that you believe in. Do for self. Get up and do something for yourself. Now we're going to switch back to the physical fall, because because what I'm going to give you now are the delayed symptoms of a fall. And I want us to relay it spiritually. So once we fall, and that's a conversation between you and Allah. You don't have to say that out loud to anybody. This is you. Have that conversation. We're not Catholic. You don't have to go to the confession booth. Talk to Allah and start working to correct the behavior and tighten up that wobble. Delayed symptoms after a fall. Limited mobility and limited range of motion are commonly delayed. What does that mean spiritually? Your range of motion, your capacity to see Allah again everywhere, to wrap your arms around something and to love, your spiritual motion is limited. Give me an example in the chat of somebody that you think may have, or of a behavior that somebody may demonstrate. Don't put no names in there. If it seems as if their spiritual motion is limited. We say in this world how big your heart is. Some people lose their range of motion after they fall. Limited range of motion in certain parts of your spirituality. Normally, it's like your back, your shoulders, your arms, your hands, your legs, your feet. Okay? But what we're talking about, different aspects of your spirituality. Could be how well you uphold the policies and procedures of the organization. I'm tying this into us as conscious entrepreneurs because we should be constructing our businesses so that we understand that certain principles that are important to us are baked into the business models. You don't have to say God, Allah, Jehovah. You ain't got to do that, but bake certain principles into your policies and procedures and the way you do things, especially your human resources process, so that you're not creating the same old business model, slapping a black face on it or a brown face on it, and then saying, okay, now it's a minority business or it's a black business, and then creating the same interdependencies that the old business model created, which now is impacting you that you're trying to get away from. I said, give an example. Stagnation is a beautiful one. Thank you, Sister Aurelia, for that. Stagnation is beautiful. A lot of times, your leadership team may be killing your business because they are where ideas go to die. So your staff may have great ideas about how to improve a process. They know because they're interacting with the customers. They're interacting with the product. They're out there in the field, on the floor, working. And so they may have great ideas that they may be given to your leadership team. And your leadership team may just be snuffing out the ideas, one, because they might be a control freak with no creativity. And they're afraid to allow somebody else to be creative. Or they want to get all the credit. They want you to think that they're doing everything. They don't want you to think that so-and-so came up with this idea. So if that supervisor over there comes up with a good idea, your manager may not tell you that they presented a great idea. And you come out and you're motivating your staff and people love working for you. They love the idea, but you got this bad manager between you and them. And you come out, they get so excited. They come up with these ideas. They're sharing it. They're submitting it. And that person's not telling you about it because they don't want you to know. They want you to think that they are the best and the most in love with you, the top salesperson, the best at adhering to the company policy, whatever. So they don't tell you. And then now your staff is disappointed and disengaged because they think that because you're so close to your manager that you got their idea and that it's you who's ignoring them. How many times have we been in an organization and we submit an idea, we submit something, and then all of a sudden our language changes? Well, they don't want to hear it, or they don't like me, or every time I say something, they're out to get me. And here you are as the president, the owner, the CEO, and you can't figure out what's wrong with everybody. Probably because you got an evil spirit or evil eye or a negative person impacting your team because they're trying to be the number one in your eyes. And so these conversations we're having around disappointment, falling, are all things that you can use in your organization. Let's see. Do we have time for this? Yeah, we got time. So I want to talk about the key mental effects of falling. This is related. This is going to be written in the language of a physical fall, but we're going to relate it to a spiritual fall. It's a lot of them, so I may not stop. I may just keep reading them And you guys let me know in the chat if something triggers you. The key mental effects of falling: immediate shock and surprise, right? Believe it or not, when a person falls spiritually, especially if they thought they was all that, they're shocked and surprised, which is a good place to be, because that shock and surprise is going to lead you to the cause, and it's going to help you. They may have physical pain from the fall. Okay? Physical pain from the fall. So they may actually get sick. They may actually be going through, and during the process of them wallowing in the fall, when their wobble was so wide, they may have went through a few physical ailments. The experience of falling can lead to significant fear of falling again, causing anxiety about everyday activities and potential future falls. This is an interesting one, because spiritually, a lot of times when we fall, we're so worried about falling again that we just abandon the whole process altogether. And I'm telling you, this can happen even if the person's physical body is still there. They could have fallen and abandoned the mission a long time ago. Right? All right. A fall can damage your sense of stability and control, impacting your self-perception and confidence in your abilities. I think that's self-explanatory. Sometimes it just messes your head up, so you don't feel good about yourself. You don't feel comfortable. Your perception of yourself can become so low that you lose confidence in your abilities. The inconvenience and disruption caused by a fall, especially if it leads to limitations in mobility, can lead to feelings of frustration and irritability. So, sometimes that old mean and cantankerous person at the job or in the organization, a lot of times it's because they don't want to be there. They done fell out. They've fallen and disconnected themselves, and they just there maybe to collect a paycheck, or maybe even just to be here because they ain't got nowhere else to go. Repeated falls or a severe fall with significant injury can contribute to feelings of hopelessness and depression. Hopelessness and depression. But people are just like, I don't know. We messed up. I remember a friend of mine said, man, you always so positive. That he said, but I feel like Black people, we getting ready to become extinct because we just behaving horribly. He had just given up hope. He said, I have no hope in us for the future. And I'm trying to talk to him. I'm like, but wait, you have children. You can't say that. He said, I don't have no hope. That sense of hopelessness came about because of some type of spiritual disconnection that he had experienced, some type of fall. Okay. After a fall, people may become overly cautious and hyper aware of their surroundings, constantly monitoring their balance and stability. What triggers the reaction to the fall is generally the sensitivity of the person. So this is when being sensitive is a beautiful thing, because it'll make you go, whoa, 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 what was that? So you want to get your sensitivities heightened up so that you can catch yourself and catch these things before they happen. Now, few last things I want to mention before we go. Factors influencing mental response to a fall. Again, I said that your sensitivity is going to be the key thing. But here are some other factors. How bad were you injured? Did something happen to you so traumatically that you can't get back? Where your wobble widened so far you can't get back? How severe were your injuries? How old are you in the organization, in the faith? Are you able to maintain even if certain other conditions have changed? How many times have you fallen in the past? Think about that. El Loso official channel says when a person don't have the ability to adapt to change, they will fall from within. The fall, I have some flowers here in front of me, and literally one of the bulbs just popped open as we're talking. Sorry. When a person don't have the ability to adapt to change, they will fall from within. The falling from within will eventually manifest into a physical fall in the form of falling from grace, etc. Very good assessment. I like that. Now, real quick, what do we do? What do we do if we've fallen? First off, we got to assess our injuries. We got to figure out what caused us to fall so we can move that debris out of the way, so we can get that obstacle out of the way, fix the floor, whatever we got to do. Let's figure out what we got to do so that we can avoid that fall again. Now we know we fell, we on the ground, we looking around and we go, what the hell just happened? We got to assess it. Okay. We want to check for any significant injuries. Did an injury become so bad that we got to focus on it extra in our prayers, in our meditation? Did we become so injured that from within that all of a sudden we may need to go to counseling? We may need to go talk to somebody because we've fallen so hard. Do we need to seek medical attention? So do we need help? Do we need an intervention? Make that assessment. And then as you're going through whatever repair process you determine you need to go through, make sure that you are, one, forgiving yourself, not being extra hard on yourself, because the language that you're speaking to yourself in your head is now going to impact your entire DNA, every organ in your body. So you want to be careful of that. And then start relaxing. Relax into prayer. Relax into meditation. Start working on the conversations that you're having with yourself. Work on how you're handling yourself. Get a little closer to the information or the word that is going to give you more data points so that you can, number one, find Allah in more places, but then you can also access data that's going to help you and help your heart to relax. Because here's the thing, we talked about this, we talked about the mind-heart congruency. And what happens is that our heart can see things on a quantum level. It's multidimensional. So deep down in your heart will know that everything's going to be okay. Your brain might be freaking out and running your blood pressure up and making you lose it because you don't have enough data to relax your brain. And so your brain is just going off of a few data points. And now that you've fallen or had a problem, those data points are bad data points. You need more data now. And so I always say a prayer when I'm going through something. I'll ask Allah, I say, download into me the data that I need that aligns my mind with my heart. Because my heart knows your presence. My heart functions in full submission to who you are. My heart knows who you are. Sometimes my brain gets stressed out, doesn't think I'm good enough, gets bothered or irritated by what other people may say or do. And so I say, I need some more data points. I'll give you this one last example. I went to an event last week, and there were people elected officials and a bunch of people, and I'm just going to say it, they were announcing the development of a hospital here in Chicago, and I'll spare you all the detail, but a lot of the plans for the hospital seem to be lifted directly from something that I had wrote up and submitted to a public forum back in Maryland. And I was literally sitting there I didn't know how to feel. I was in a free-for-all. Do I go up and curse somebody out? Do I get a lawyer? Do I just go, well, hey, maybe this is an opportunity for me to get a consulting? I didn't know what to do, what to think. And I needed another data point because my heart didn't feel bad about it. It was my mind that felt bad about it. It was my ego that felt like my ideas had been snatched and all this other. It was my ego was going through it. But my heart was calm. And I called my former business partner, and he gave me some data points that was so powerful. He said, you know what? He said, we created a business model that saved over 30,000 lives and limbs. But the demand became so big, we couldn't save everybody with the business model that had been put together. We couldn't reach 30,000 is nothing. And he said, who's to say that the business model wasn't yours or mine? And that it was Allah. He said, you always praying to be a conduit, right? He said, and that it was Allah. And that Allah also gave it to them so that more people could be saved. And that you have another business model within you that's going to supersede that. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing. But those data points that he gave me, it helped me reconcile, okay? I can't use the word reconcile. Allow my mind to catch up with my heart. And I'm being cryptic because I don't want to give out too much details, but anyway, 2025, we're going to be scrubbing our brains. We're going to be scrubbing our hearts. We're going to do good. We don't need nobody's permission to do good. We're going to divorce the informants in our life. We're going to prevent ourselves from becoming disappointed. We're going to continue to focus and seek our own relationship with Allah. We're going to honor our authenticity. These are all things that we covered this week. We still got 2 more days in this week. We're going to continue our preparation for, what's today? Thursday? Yeah, we're going to continue our preparation for 2025. And we're going to focus on ourselves. Let's get ourselves together and let's heal. Let's heal. I want to thank each and every one of you for jumping out here and listening today, for supporting the network, and just for being good people in 2024. Let's move forward and be even better, even more powerful. But let's not expect more than we're willing to give. What does that mean? We know we got behaviors in our lives and ways in which we're thinking and acting and conducting ourselves that is preventing us from lining up properly with what it is that we want. See, sometimes you can become so deviant that all you can do is follow somebody else's plan because you can't even creatively think of your own plan. All you can do is follow somebody else's plan, and all they got to do is come drop that suggestion in and you gone. So with that, family, support Support the vibration of the network, what we're working on as conscious entrepreneurs, being better people, going into business more whole so that we can have access to happiness, wealth, money, good homes, friendships, and all walks of life. We want to be happier, healthier, wealthier, and experience more love. We want to be more aligned with our Creator. Okay. Thank you, Sister Amina. Assalamu alaikum. She says, all praises due to Allah. Thanks for a positive message starting my day. So thank you all. And if you got anything out of this, go to your Cash App and go to Sajdah Enterprises and support the network. Sister Sharqueen X says, yes, ma'am. Thank you. And assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam, ma'am. RJ Funches says, all praises due to God. I appreciate you, sis, and chat. All right, y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. May today be a beautiful, beautiful day. Make sure you go to sajdahhouse.com. Make sure you are on the mailing list. Okay? Because there's some amazing things we got going on coming up, and you don't want to miss it. I'm going to have a healthcare event coming up here in the next couple of weeks in the month of January. So stay close for that too. Okay. All right, family. Peace and blessings. Love you all very, very much. Like and subscribe to the channel and tell somebody about it. We got to make it go viral. And the more we share, the more we interact, the better it is. All right. Peace and blessings. I wish I could say I was going to go back to bed, but I got to go do some work. But I'm sleepy. Who knew that napping makes you even sleepier? Crazy. Anyway, y'all, I'll talk to y'all later, inshallah, tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. right here on the Sajdah Wendy Muhammad YouTube channel. Peace and blessings.